Welcome back to Caps Hockey Review. Back at it. Post expansion draft. What a night it was. I guess I should say what a day it was because the all the picks got leaked, or the vast majority of the picks got leaked before the draft. Wow. Uh that really sucks for the league, doesn't it? I mean, new expansion franchise, you're trying to get all the eyes on the product. Same for Seattle. You want as many eyes, as many fans as you can get. And that leaks out, and I'm sure it costs some TV views. Absolutely. ESPN also can't be very excited. Their first broadcast of anything NHL since 2004. The Stanley Cup Finals, where the Lightning won their first Stanley Cup. Wow. Good on the insiders. Everybody was kind of piling on the insiders and the analysts for leaking this, and you shouldn't be doing that. These guys are doing their job. That's just what it is. These guys are paid to get the hot take, get the big scoop, and get it out there. And whoever gets it done first is king. And Frank Saravalli, I believe he works for TSN, was the driving force behind it. Good for him. He's doing his job. He's doing it real well. I'm sure the folks at TSN were thrilled. Now, though, for anybody like me who was excited to watch the expansion draft for that surprise factor. And what I mean by that is, yes, we have these, ideas and thoughts and predictions about who's going to get taken, but until the pick's actually made, you don't know. So that's unfortunate. It taking away that surprise factor from the draft, it's like it just makes it less exciting. And for me, I still watched, part of it, but it just takes away from it. And I'm sure there were plenty of people who just didn't watch at all because of that. Because why would I sit there and watch it when I can just look on the internet? So that's kind of unfortunate for the league, for Seattle, for ESPN. It's really really unfortunate. So good job by the insiders, but also you got to do a better job. Is it that hard to keep a list of the draft picks under wraps for, what was it? They handed the list over, I think, at 10 a.m. and the draft was at 8 Eastern time. Like, how hard is it to keep it under wraps for 10 hours? I mean, it's not like they're handing the list in a week before the draft. How tough is it? I mean, I'm sure somebody from Seattle or somebody from the league let it slip out who's going where. I don't think these insiders were included on the email, right? I mean, like it's just ridiculous. Terrible job by the league here. You want more eyes on the products. You went back to ESPN for that exact reason, and the first broadcast loses views because whoever it was ran their mouth. Just couldn't shut up and keep a secret for 10 hours. So, wow, that's a bit of a rocky start to this whole ESPN era. I guess the new ESPN era. But enough about that. That's beside the point here, honestly. So for the Caps, Vitek Vanacek is now a member of the Seattle Kraken. This is a double whammy for the Caps. I should say triple whammy. This hurts them in about three different ways, and I'll get into those here in just a minute. But this is probably the worst case scenario for the Caps right now, because not only are you losing a prospect who looked good last year. I mean, looks like he could be a starter in the league on, and a solid starter. I would not throw him into that elite category by any means yet. Maybe someday he will be, but right now he looks like he could be a starter. So to lose that, but to also not have really any salary coming off the books. The guy's making pretty much league minimum. And I think his deal was expired. I think he's an RFA. So Seattle holds his negotiating rights, which I'm sure he will sign because he has a chance now to be a number one goalie. Whereas, last year he pretty much split with Samsonov. So good for old V squared. He's gonna get his opportunity, and that's great for him, and I'm excited to see what he does. But damn it, I am not happy he is not a member of the Capitals. Wow, okay. So you lose a promising goalie. You don't lose any salary in this deal, in this selection, I should say. It's not really a deal. And third, the reason this is a triple whammy, Samsonov's safety net is gone. It's gone. Because every time Samsonov gets shaky, does something stupid off ice and gets suspended by the team, gets injured doing something off the ice that he probably shouldn't be doing, Vanacek's there to clean up the mess, and now he's not. So, yeah, this hurts. So I'm going to jump into the cap space issue first, and then I'll jump into the goalie issue after that with who they could possibly replace Vanacek with. But for right now, salary. Anybody who's watched this on a regular basis or knows me, I'm a big fan of cap space. Huge. I believe in this current NHL where the salary cap is flat, it's not increasing every year. Salary cap space is a huge asset, and I think undervalued, honestly, by a lot of people. Cap space allows you to do a lot of different things. You have more freedom in trades. You have more freedom in who you can sign at free agency if you want to. It's easier to re-sign your current players who have deals expiring. It just makes everything easier. Being cap strapped like this team always seems to be just makes everything that just so much harder. So it would have been nice to see them open up some cap space in this draft. Like I discussed before, Brendan Dillon, Justin Schultz, both older guys. Figured Seattle was targeting defensemen, which of course they were, just not from the Caps. But Dillon and Schultz, both older guys, about $4 million each against the cap. That extra cap space would have really been helpful. Now, not to say that won't open up, because I'm sure some trades are coming, which I'll jump into as well. But cap space. It's as it sits right now, the Caps have just a smidge more than $9 million. Now, sounds like a lot, but you got to remember, El Capitan, Alex Ovechkin, still needs a new contract. Ilya Samsonov, now apparently your undisputed number one, also needs a new contract. Now, granted, he's an RFA. The Caps hold his negotiating rights through December, January, whatever it is. So they'll get a deal done. Ovechkin, they'll get a deal done. I'm sure they'll get it done. But once those are done, you can't imagine there's going to be too much left of that $9 million. Then when you reactivate Michael Kempny off long-term IR, that's pretty much going to wipe out your $9 million. So you're still sitting here without a number two goalie. Trades are going to have to happen. Now, as I discussed before, Evgeny Kuznetsov still seems the prime candidate to be traded. Brian McClellan has met with the media in the last couple weeks and said the likelihood of a Kuznetsov trade is quote-unquote high. I would think so, being that he has about a $7.5 million cap hit, so that's a lot of money to be saved there. And the rumors are that the Caps management they're fed up with his off-ice bullshit. It started with the cocaine issue. Now we've, being late for team meetings, getting suspended, getting on the COVID list. I mean, just all these things are just piling up, and his performance on the ice is declining. I think right now is a good time to move on from him while he still has some value, because if he turns in one or two, more mediocre seasons, he's not going to have a lot of value, because teams are going to look at it as overpaid, decent production but not good, and some off ice problems. That's not what a lot of teams are looking for. So I think a trade needs to happen for Kuznetsov as soon as possible. GMBM just needs to pull the trigger on this. Now, that would certainly open up, like I said, about $7.5 million in cap space, which would leave them plenty of money to get Ovechkin, Samsonov done, get Kempny back in the fold, and sign a number 2 and have some space left over. So that's kind of what we're looking at as the summer progresses, and that's kind of what I'll be looking for. I'm guessing, maybe at the expansion draft we'll see a deal done to move Kuznetsov. But as it sits right now, of course, he is still a Washington Capital. So cap space, wishes, and predictions aside, number 2 goalie. Okay. So I'm guessing they're going to sign somebody, but just assume they don't want to. What do they have in-house? Craig Anderson, maybe, but getting up there in years, I don't know if they're going to. They really brought him in last year when Lundqvist was, ruled out with the heart condition. Lundqvist's name is still swirling. At this point, coming off the heart surgery, he had a what they called a minor setback a couple weeks or a couple months ago. At this point, I don't think Henrik Lundqvist will play in the NHL again. If he does, if he can find a way to get back on the horse, get back in shape, and get cleared medically, good for him. I hope it happens. But I'm sitting here right now not really thinking it's going to. He's 36, 37 years old right now, so he's got, maybe a couple of years left as an NHL goalie anyway, at least in that starting role, which is where he'd want to be. So I don't think Lundqvist is an option at this point. Craig Anderson, maybe, but I don't think so. Phoenix Copley is an option. Former backup, of course, was Braden Holtby's backup in 2019. Did pretty well, but then lost out 2 years ago going into the playoff bubble. Lost out the backup job to Vitek Vanacek. Of course, Ilya Samsonov was injured after that ATV accident in Russia. So not really sure where he's at as far as, being ready or able to play in the NHL at this point. And, they got a couple of young guys, Zach Fucale, Hunter Shepard, both still in their development stages, not really ready for the NHL. So unless they want to rock with Copley, which they certainly could, I think, but with what we've seen of Samsonov thus far, I don't think they're looking for a question mark as a number 2. I think they're going to go out and find somebody who is a solid number 2, be that, maybe Yaroslav Halak. Played for the Capitals briefly back in 2014. He could certainly be a solid option. Older guy, he could be a bit of a mentor for Samsonov. That's an option. But that's also going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I guess my overall reaction to this draft is, first, I'm disappointed. I am pissed. Vitek Vanacek is gone. And like I discussed, Ilya Samsonov's safety net is gone. Now, they're going to have to replace that, of course. But every time, okay, 2 years ago, Samsonov gets hurt in Russia in an ATV accident. Vanacek's there to kind of save the day, if you will. Last year, he ends up on the COVID list. Again, I think he ended up on there twice, actually. He did end up on there twice. Vitek Vanacek is the man. He had some injury issues. Vanacek is the man. I think the Caps' decision to protect Samsonov was maybe that last reaffirmation that, yes, you are our guy. This is a huge pat on the back for Samsonov saying, you're our guy. We believe you're the goalie of the future. We believe you're the goalie of now. But now he has to reciprocate. He has to quit screwing around off the ice. He has to quit doing things off the ice that could get him hurt. He has to commit to being on the ice and being the guy in the net for this team. That's just what it is. So I think this might be Samsonov's last chance. If he screws around this year, I think they're going to move on from him too. But let's hope that doesn't happen because he looks like a very good goalie, and a young guy has certainly a lot of years ahead of him if he takes this seriously, if he treats it the way it deserves to be treated. He will certainly have a bright future in this league, hopefully with the Capitals. So that's where we sit. A big old question mark for a number 2 right now, and an uncertain number 1 at best. We got a captain who needs a new contract. Our shaky number 1 needs a new contract, and probably needing to sign a number 2. I'm telling you right now, things do not look all that great in Caps land. So we'll be watching close. We got the drafts coming up. Could see some stuff going on there as far as trades go. Of course, we'll find out who maybe the next wave of prospects are going to be. Free agency coming up the 28th that opens. So hopefully we'll get some clarity on the Ovechkin situation, number 2 goalie situation. Ovechkin hopefully before then. Because once free agency opens, he's free to negotiate with any team he wants. So that could be a concern. But we'll get some clarity on the number 2 goalie spot. Hopefully these dark clouds will clear away a little bit and we'll be looking a little bit sunnier in a couple weeks. But I'll be back with you after the entry draft and following free agency as well. Until then, go Caps.